Exile returning. My friend, I have cast this book into the ether between worlds, and it is no accident that it has chosen to come to you. I was once a mighty overlord. I was a prophet and a radiant god king. I was a monster. I do not wish to say my name. You will know it when you hear it, and if you never do, we both have reason to be thankful. What I am now is different. I am a broken cadaver, imprisoned in my flesh and branded by my stolen name. There are no mirrors here, but I can see it, reflected in the smooth stone floors. For this is the library, and my department is the grey quarter, where there can be only one tender. All the volumes here are secretive, and grow from dusty shelves like little square marrows. They seep into worlds wherever books congregate, and to whom they are needed. Some say they contain hidden knowledge and power. I know that it is more complicated than that. I grow them, and I tend them, as is my task. The Tower of Tongues is a strong refuge, and as a hermit, I am only a prisoner to my state of mind. I cast this record into the ether, for I know it will come into the right hands. Its purpose is its own. It was after the fall. I do not know if you will know of that race that once called itself a Författare, but you will have heard our story. A golden age draws to an end on an old world with a red and wizened sun. A cruel dynasty is made, a terrible war is fought, and a deplorable word spoken. I was but a keen scribe amongst a lost and scattered people. Many years had passed, but we still dreamed of what had been, living amongst its ruins. There was a secret, however, that our forebears once possessed, with which one could write new worlds. It had been lost, and the subworlds depleted. As one of the last of my caste, I took it as my mission to find the secret and to write my fallen kin back to greatness. I was not alone in this quest, but I was the one who solved the riddle, breached the horizon, and entered the Tower of Tongues. I shall never teach you how to do this, and you will know why when you have read this. But for your growth, think of the Tower of Towers and know that it is within yourself. I stole two things. I stole the secret, and I stole my name. I was not alone either. There were three of us, scions of a broken race with great plans. We three succeeded where all others had failed, and we returned to set to work. We temporarily salvaged the failing world before we began to practice creating new ones. It was an intoxicating craft, but the needs of a Författare were endless, and we made many mistakes, and our creations withered in their tender youth. We did our best, but we fought for our lives in a sea of envy and resentment, as well as adoration and devotion. We were immortal and held full control of our names. We were solely responsible and able to feed and clothe our kin. That power and dependency did not serve us well. We were far too young to be kings and gods. We formed the triumvirate and made our plans. We would abandon our failing home world and write a new and better one into which to lead the Författare. We would also write lesser worlds that contained the materials we needed. It was here that it truly began to go wrong, for we also wrote slaves to be taken for the project, as well as entire worlds for no purpose but to be stripped of their natural bounty, lest we would have to spoil our own grand new world. It was also then that we three became rivals. We all wanted to be god kings, Silver, Brass, and I. It is decidedly less satisfying if you must share your private world with another overlord. We decided to write not one, but 3 worlds. The world of Neelum was my masterpiece. All lessons learned, all knowledge dearly attained, I worked into it. I anchored it to my stolen name. I founded it with words of strength, arranged triangularly, for it was the 3rd major age I wrote. We saviors of Verata were 3, and the pyramid is a symbol of stability. All manner of interlocking systems, all contradictions circumvented, all possibilities considered. Beautiful fields, rolling hills and towering flowers, all set and written to please my share of the Verata. Life had been cruel, ugly and nasty, and I would make them happy. I was proud of that world. I had surpassed the world scribes from the times before the fall. No more copied old phrases, no more mistakes. I would build it all from nothing but my genius, true creativity, like the mathematics of old, summoning, binding and describing the impossible. For that is what drove me to begin again, a new world, free from all the dirges and laments I and everyone I knew had lived with for their entire lives. What we 3 failed to consider was that we were not creating, we were describing. Endless possibilities were before us, but we still wrote like a bard does, in accordance with expectations and predictable rhythm. The idea that we were following patterns was alien to us, that all possibilities in our worlds were already written, as is everything in the endless universes. What then would there be for us to add? Where could we leave our unique marks? What else is there but to take away? That is why we did not see what we were doing. But what is done is done. I wrote these lands, and I led my followers. I took my people there, and wrote them what they wanted, and then what they needed. Many years more went, but it was never quite right. They were an unhappy and gloomy people, so I gave them luxury. I gave them servants to do all of their work. When that was not enough, when doubt and decadence was threatening to unravel my realm, I revised the lotus that made the core of the words of the world, so that its roots would give them euphoria beyond their wildest dreams. It was foolproof, and it worked far too well. For even the soft and scented reality I had offered my people were agony once they had eaten the roots, and there would never be reason to live in it again. The Lotophagy tenders will not forgive me, for it was I who poisoned their people, and their hatred for their fate and their place is all that remains to them. Even when they break free from the lotus dream, they cannot break free from the sweet agony and bitter ecstasy that is catharsis. Their unbroken brethren cannot forgive me, for they cannot see how I have wronged them, wasting away in utter joy and bliss. The Trinitites cannot forgive me, for they too made fundamental mistakes and had to see their people pay the price, and it was I and not them who broke the horizon. Silver turned to machines and mechanics, until nothing remained of himself or his people. Brass turned to war and glory, and when they ran out of subworlds to conquer, and when I would not ride them more, they turned their blades to themselves. They cannot forgive me for surrendering my name. They cannot forgive me for returning my loot. They will hunt me forever, but they shall not find me. For there is no sin amongst our foolish and misbegotten kind but one, to willingly surrender power. This was the fate for the Verata. All I ever wanted was to do good. I heard that the road of damnation is paved with good intentions, but I had heard it before, and as it was not words of my own, I cast them aside. Phrases and fairy tales, I said, as I set to my work. And yet I wanted to leave. It was now unbearably clear that I was the original problem, and that what few verata remained would be safer without me. Indeed, so would the otherkins who wrote to form the lower castes. A writer or a bard is not responsible for the pain and hardship that afflicts their characters in the name of a good story. So, I argued, were not I responsible for the sentiments of any beings born from my quill? And yet, a world scribe describes. This suffering, along with the damage my increasingly desperate revisions of a world rune was making it fray and tear. To give them a chance to survive, I had to leave them to fend for themselves without my revisions. I had to leave them, and I had to take my name away from what was, although a poisoned and dilapidated ruin, the only home world remaining. Mercifully, there was a natural escape clause. I had no patience for fate or prophecy in my early centuries on the throne. I discarded them as the dreams of lesser souls, and I relied on immutable chains of cause, effect, and deduction, useless for my purposes. And yet, it was the key to my freedom, to use these invisible forces that were tearing my realm apart and channel them to my ends in the literal sense of the word. It took only the smallest of adjustments to change the conditions of a wild prophecy, to point towards a goal I now knew was the only possibility, and my only way out of the machine I had chained and bricked myself inside. That it proved so simple was disheartening, as it shattered my previous principles, yet it had to be done. It was all a matter of a looser phrase here, a seemingly minor detail here, secret weapons, hidden mysteries, stages set, masks prepared, lines rehearsed. I had not had as much fun for centuries. As the right stars arrived, the hero eventually rose up, refused the call, were compelled, found unexpected aid from a mentor, suffered setbacks and triumphs, and so forth, until the wicked wizard I had played fell, and my world slipped out of my suffocating bounds, and the dragon could know me, despite my missing name, and we could speak. I surrendered my name, returned the secret, and walked off the stage. The name and the secret took most of my power and my flesh with it, but there was enough of me to banish to the library, to reflect and repent. And here we are. I have nothing to teach you, for I am unworthy. But I have something to say to you. I am a scribe. Yet I am a written being. So are you. So were the Viratans, and all the beings summoned to serve them. I failed them all. But the way to save them was there, all along, the moment you no longer fight the way. My dear friend, it is no good to not believe in fairy tales. You are in one. Indeed, if we meet, I shall tell the tale of my downfall in full. This is not the place, for it needs to be done justice, but it is a good yarn, and I think it was quite inspired, if I say so. Then you shall tell me your tale. Perhaps as we walk a while, together, wherever the winding road means to take us. All souls are travellers. Perhaps you shall encounter what remains of my work one day. I know the inhabitants of old Neelam are still there. Perhaps you will see what I once wished I could see in them, once. Look kindly upon them, and carry some light to those who need it the most. I am free now, and I must put down the quill. I would like to linger for a while, but I think that once I have sent this volume, I shall soon cast myself into the void too. Once my work here is done, and my successor arrives, I shall be free as air. It will not be long, I see that now. Perhaps the Maker have further plans for me, and perhaps I will one day earn that elusive sleep that I long for so. We do not know where we are going, but we are on our way. Take care, my dear seeker friend.